many of us are Course in Miracles students that, and here we are live on YouTube, that a lot of times we're not interested in walking each other home. And in fact, we're spending a lot of energy being in fear and um, believing that somehow, we can be harmed. Of course, we need to, have a healed mind to remember that nothing can harm a son of God. But man, do we defend ourselves for no reason whatsoever. And in that we attack our brothers. We're just attacking. So, Jesus, is saying, be hallowed be my name. I mean, hallowed my name. That's what Jesus is saying to me. You're hallowed. You're holy. What the heck? Anyway, good morning, Bruce. Are you back yet?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was just thinking about what you were sharing and how, you know, the only thing that makes our identity holy is the fact that it's whole.
Yeah.
And if we divide it, um, we're, you know, doing the shape-shifting dance, dream, delusion of thinking that we can separate it into little parts, but it's really the whole that means anything. Only the whole.
Only the whole is right. And that's
Yeah.
why Jesus tells us, be of one mind.
Hmm.
Be of one mind is a condition for revelation readiness. So that's and what is he saying when he's saying that be of one mind? He's not saying, you know, he's actually telling us be consistent, be honest. Honesty is consistency. Be consistent in your thinking and your acting, and you know, uh, do what you're here to do, not be angry about things that other people are up to that have nothing to do with you. I think that's so funny. All right. So we're reading, Bruce Rawles and I are reading Absence from Felicity, the story of Helen Schuckman and her scribing of A Course in Miracles. And let's see, I got to move this so I can
By
actually.
Kenneth Wapnick, PhD.
Hi, Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, I made that way too big. I don't want that so big. I won't be able to see anything. And we're on, according to my Kindle, on page 238,
And not
47.
far too far different on the print version in front of me, which is top of page 245.
Very good. See, we're getting closer to the what vanishing point.
Halfway point,
Halfway point. Yep. No, actually, I'm just
where it's
saying.
all downhill, we can
Yeah,
coast.
it's all downhill from now. Yep. Top of the bell curve. All right. So, would you like to read, or you want me to read?
Sure, I'll read.
Okay.
Um, so Ken continues. The notes continued with material found in chapter 1 on Revelation, the miracle, the role of Jesus, and principles 46 through 48, after which Jesus returned to Helen and Bill's relationship. And now he's being quoted here by Helen. Tell Bill he is right in providing you with the consistent strength you need to get, and he needs to offer. Your instability and his weakness have resulted from bad karmic choices, and your relationship now is crucial for the future. You must both exert every effort to restore it to what it once was. Both of you are correcting where you have failed before. This has already enabled you to fulfill a very unexpected role in your joint salvation and the salvation of many other children I will entrust increasingly to you. These are by no means chosen at random. Bill should know that his preparation is not only in terms of sharing in the results of your better application of some rather unusual talents. His own role, which he will understand after his preparation is complete, will be equally surprising. He will need your help then as you need his strength now.
Wow. Uh, it almost seems like Jesus knows what's happening or what's going to happen in the script. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and more than likely he does, because he can see it from where he's at his vantage point. But wow, the, it's like I'm sure you and I and everyone else who have started up with this course have after a while looked back and said, what the heck? How did I end up, doing this? This was not something I planned in my youth when I was going to school or whatever, that I would
Maybe
someday,
not consciously.
not consciously, but yeah, I mean, this is what happens is, as we trust more and more, we get more and more, uh, as he says, what does he say? Um, that we have lots of help, basically, from a lot of different sources,
Mhm.
to help us get through all of this massive change that has to happen in order for us to actually, perform our function, whatever. But yeah, it's real interesting that Jesus is, and like, it just is amazing to me because Helen didn't grow up in the Christian church, so she's not like, oh my God, Jesus. I think if she had more of a belief in, or thought about Jesus as, I was taught about Jesus, she would have been a lot more conscious of her responses and what she did here. Anyway, enough of
Mhm.
my chattering. Do you want me to read on?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, all right. By the way, how are you feeling? Remember last?
Better.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, we're
Still,
kind of,
still recovering, but improving. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's after you take a bunch of antibiotics, you got to recover from that too. It's
Hmm.
like, it's like, what it does to your body is unusual also.
Yep.
Okay, so Jesus just told Helen, you guys, you are getting ready. We're getting ready for this unexpected role for Bill. You're correcting something that you failed before, which indicates, as Helen's visions had shown her, that there were lifetimes when they were together that they had, failures, or didn't do what they needed to do, but they were together. I mean, that's um, kind of an interesting uh, uh, thought anyway. But he says to her, both of you are correcting where you have failed before, and this has already enabled you to fulfill a very unexpected role, which is, I'm believing, scribing of the course, the salvation of other children. I will entrust increasingly to you. And he tells us I think in the Manual for Teachers, that he sends us people, that he entrusts people to us, even you and me, um, are given people to work with and to help. Um,
And of
and
course, that's really just symbolic of that there are parts of our mind that we've orphaned off that we need to heal. And so, but we perceive that as people that, either physically, um, we encounter, or through, well, various electronic media and communications that we have available these days, and or just people we think about, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and good you pointed that out, because you're right, there is nobody out there. So all of these that seem to come to us, I get a lot of people who come to me about questions, and like, I don't even know why. I've just always, maybe because I'm willing to talk to people, and so if I'm willing to listen, they want somebody to listen, and that's a good thing. I'm glad I've got that. What I have is a compelling love of stories, so I will listen to everything you tell me, and so, of course, that's not necessarily for A Course in Miracles student a great thing that I'm going to listen to your story, but I think it's important. I don't know. But anyway, uh, lots of people come to me and I counsel them in whatever way that I can. I don't set myself up for that. I don't ask people, I don't tell people, but they will come to me and ask me about things. And I always know that they were sent to me. I always know that, the Holy Spirit sent them here. And not because I need to tell them something they need to hear. It's because they're going to tell me something I need to hear. Because as you point out very clearly, there's nobody out there. So these people are just here to reflect back to me my own thinking. Thank you for that.
Mirrors all.
Yep.
Everyone that we meet or think about is a mirror.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you think of them as anything else, then they become your enemy and you can't love them. But if you just see them as a reflection, which you do literally see them as a reflection, but you but you're not happy about it.
Well, that's where the forgiveness practice comes in, right? Because if anything
Exactly.
that's less than peaceful in our interpretation, obviously is something that we've ascribed on our own as an ego to saying, well, the separation's real, and because I still haven't reconciled this unconscious but unfounded guilt, I need to look at all the specific things that I think are pushing my buttons and realize that's just a part of my mind that I need to bring back, like you're
Yeah,
saying, walk that part of myself home. And it appears to be, individuals, but really it's just one of us, you know, unexploding the explosion,
exactly. Wow. Yeah.
reversing the Big Bang in our mind.
Reversing the Big Bang. I love it. Okay, let's see. All right. Anyway, so Jesus just gave Helen some really beautiful information or understanding about what Bill's role is going to be in the future, but not really anything specific. He just says you're going to be surprised. So Helen and Bill, and later the three of us, spent considerable time ruminating about Bill's later, quote, surprising role, but it never materialized. Neither did what certainly seemed to be Jesus's expectations about Helen's and Bill's additional functioning besides the scribal one. And I'm real surprised about this. I'm just stopping right here because this surprises me. I saw Bill as having a surprising role, being as he was like the first student who really completed the course, or that's how, we look at it. And I think, they maybe just were looking for something more, thinking something more was going to happen, just like with
Right.
help.
Maybe it's surprising in the sense of sensational or whatever, but
Yeah,
Bill was a very quiet person, and maybe that's expressing that. It's not like
a
well, it was
big deal.
surprising only that well, I don't know.
I know, yeah, it's just, yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
either. I don't know either, but
Yeah.
it just is interesting that Ken would say this. So I guess it sounded to me like Bill had quite um, a surprising role for guy like him. Uh,
Hmm.
okay,
Well,
so
just the fact that he collaborated with Helen on every bit of the scribing, um, that's a non-trivial uh, part.
yeah, and as a clinical psychologist, was not saying this is some this is some sickness that's happening here or something crazy happening to you. He was like, okay, cool, this is nice. Let's listen to what Jesus has to say. And he really opened up, and I haven't really read anything where he said, no, 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 I don't believe this. I don't want to hear about it. And
Mhm.
Sharon and I are reading that Never Forget to Laugh book, and I have this other one by Neil Volley, and I didn't read anything at any point in those books where, Bill was saying, I don't want this. He was accepting from the first day. When she came to him and said, I have, this thing happened, he was open and accepting to that. That's, if it doesn't even make sense if you're a clinical psychologist, because the first thing that you would be saying is there's something wrong here. But he didn't say that at all. He was like, wow, cool, let's see what it says, you know. And he had a real understanding that it was true, that it was real.
And the support that he gave Helen, I think is pivotally important, because I can't help but think that sooner or later something like this would have come out. But the fact that he was there, um, in a variety of different capacities, he was Helen's boss, so that support is, certainly there. Um, and Helen, admired Bill in a lot of ways. That I think is helpful, and the fact that they came together and said, um, let's do this. I
Yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
I think that commitment, is what carried that 7-year process and then the supplements, to fruition.
Yeah, and
Even though obviously it surfaced, as the course does for all of us, so many challenging ideas that then reflect, our unresolved forgiveness work, and Helen and Bill were obviously no exception to that whatsoever.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's just remarkable to me. The whole thing is just remarkable to me, and it almost seems like a fantasy. It doesn't seem like something like that could really have happened in the world, and yet it has, and it happened to us. So, I mean, I think that's the other thing is like, people are saying yes, yes, yes to this. So, this is. I don't think that either one of them realized how important this was or what this was going to do.
Oh yeah.
Because
And
literally, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, I've just started watching season 4 of The Chosen. Have you watched that at all?
I have not watched that.
It's interesting because there's a lot of, tremendous heart and thoughtfulness and, dedication to the egalitarian, kind, joyous spirit of the Jesus of the Bible is given in this characterization, and some, very believable characterizations of the disciples and the people around them. Um, and if you haven't checked it out, I would recommend it. Obviously, the one big elephant in the room is that the whole series is based on the premise of, Jesus being the one and only Messiah. But aside from that and some of the other religious baggage that is kind of inevitable telling that story, I think they do a remarkably good job of having having a fresh look at that whole story. And, um, really, if you kind of look at the quality of what's being shared in terms of the feeling, particularly of the Jesus character, it really comes across that spirit of sameness, equality, egalitarian thinking, and the things that he shared that were accessible at that time made sense, and I'm thinking about that story, and having watched 3 seasons now, and one planning to catch up to the middle of the fourth one, which is, shouldn't take too much longer. It seems like, in our era, a couple of millennia later, yeah, we have some more technology, but there's still so much that we're just barely catching on to, reading the course for decades, and then so it's
Yeah,
like, wow, I mean, yeah, yes, we have an advantage, and it's a decided one, but at the same time, there's still the same resistance. I mean, sure, the technology and the outer trappings of what we have available to us have changed, but the message of unconditional love and regard and complete devotion to spirit, still shines through, So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. You point out a very good point too, and I have to recognize that uh, a lot of we've had the course for what, 50 years
mhm,
thereabouts,
coming up
and
pretty quick.
and people have been studying it since the very beginning. There's lots of people that teach it. There's lots of stuff going on. The course is like, there is a market out there for Course in Miracles, uh, and yet I still hear people who'll say, I've been studying the course for 40 years, and I can't wait to see my family when I die and go to heaven. You know, this person is really evil, and I'm worried about what they're going to do, and we're going to have to fight to take them down so they don't ruin the world. Or I mean, you're right. I mean, as much as we have had this and have some of us very intensely studied it, still living in the illusion and not getting that this is really me he's talking about. It's just,
Yeah, yeah. As you're sharing that, I'm thinking one of the things that Kim Wapnick uh, shares about the course, which I think makes a lot of sense, is that it's written on a very fundamental, basic level. Um, well, multiple levels, but certainly the level that anyone can relate to, which is our relationships to everyone and everything in the world, and how we need to look at the ego defaults in all those relationships, the special loves, the special hates, and laws of chaos on that whole gamut of craziness. Um, at the same time, it comes from in a phenomenally high place in our awareness that will take us all the way there if we will let it. And I think the inspiration is that all of us sooner or later will do that, whether it's through the course in this lifetime or some other mechanism. But we have the potential right now in this lifetime, today, here,
yeah, right
to
now. Yeah.
right now, this instant, as Ken points out, another one of his workshops, to go all the way home. Now, are we going to do that? Not too likely, but the idea is that that's the essence that's beckoning us all the time to return back to that place in our mind where peace isn't just a nice theory, but it's the truth, the eternal truth. That's what's calling us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Not many of us choose to listen, which is what Jesus said.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but um, but we can at any moment. And the thing is, you know, we're still talking about other people. We're still talking about, that, these other people that we come in contact with, these brothers that we're walking home, according to today's lesson. And, that's where we really have to, start looking and realizing that there is no other, there is no brother, and that it's all about me. It's all a reflection of my own thinking. So uh, that doesn't mean that I don't have empathy when, when someone's having a problem, because that someone is me. You know, it's still me. So anyway, uh, and how long have I been studying the course? So when did I pick up? Let's see, Disappearance of the Universe, I think was like around 2007. It was
Same for
just,
me. Same for me.
yeah. And
Yep.
and so that's, when I had seen the course before, because I read Return to Love, and people were into Marianne Williamson, but I didn't have time for that kind of stuff. So I just because I was busy working a career at that time. But then when I got the Disappearance of the Universe, I had lost my job. So I didn't I didn't have a career to worry about. Which made it really easy to get involved and start looking at the Course in Miracles in a different way. So, but uh, but yeah, just think about that. Uh, it's been a focus of my life for that many years in a really uh, serious kind of way. And yet um, uh, I still uh, forget these truths. And Dove says he has a question. Dove, you
And
want to say
I
something?
was just posting a suggested answer.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
go ahead.
Dove posed in the chat. I have a quick question. How do we reverse the Big Bang? And I was thinking, well, just kind of shooting from the hip. Forgiveness, one relationship at a time in my mind seems like a reasonable answer. It's just like, I think that's how we do it. It's like it never happened, or Humpty Dumpty never fell off the wall. And so all these little fragments of eggshell that we've identified with, um, instead of our whole complete indivisible nature. Um, it just seems like I just have to keep forgiving everything that seems to be an annoyance or an irritation or an outrage, that I've been projecting onto the world, whether it's a family member, a politician, highway driver. I don't agree with their behavior, or pick anything that is not sublimely peaceful in my mind at any given moment. Um, you know, the condition of my body or finances, or things I think I need to do around the house. It can be countless things that if we think that's my identity, there's nothing wrong with obviously doing all those things. But if I can just remember to the higher identity, the undivided identity that is calling me home. And that's why, how and why we walk each other home, right? Is because we hear that call,
Yeah,
and we
yes.
feel that the deep longing for that true compassion, not to commiserate in the crazy dream we've made up so much, as to look beyond them and say, wow, somehow, some way, I know there's an identity that we all share that resolves all this craziness, right? So, thanks for that great question, Dev. And I think we're all working on it together, aren't we? Because we all need to keep looking at what bugs us. And as Ken says, it's not a course in the positive; it's a course in not know, of looking at the negative and seeing everything that seems to be outside that's pushing our buttons, and realizing, well, I'm the electrician here. I wired all those buttons.
Yeah,
I can have them trigger the Holy Spirit's response rather than the ego's response in my software. Like rewrite the software, like Kirk did in the Kobayashi Maru episode.
exactly, exactly. Captain Kirk saving us. I love that too. And it just reminded me of um the other night my husband and we're playing games, and so we play these kind of board games that have lots of interesting rules, but
Uh-huh.
we changed the rule. One of the rules that just didn't ever work, it never worked right, so we changed the rule. And then the other night we were playing, and that rule was not working right, and I said, well, why don't we just change it? And my husband's like, we can't, because that's the rule. I'm like, yeah, but we made that rule. Yeah, but that's the rule. Yeah, but we made that rule up.
Mhm.
Why can't we change the rule? And
The
and we
ego's fine as long as we we modify the software to some permutation of its original malware.
yeah,
But when we go to hit the reset button and say, and then the screen comes up, so which thought system do you want, ego or Holy Spirit? That's when the ego gets, trembles in its boots, because it's like, what? I, I didn't want you to see there's a choice, like, totally against insanity.
yeah,
How
exactly,
dare you
exactly.
bring up that option?
Oh my gosh. And actually to Dove's question about undoing the Big Bang, it happened right away.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah.
it didn't even last. Not a note in heaven's song was missed. It went boom, and that was it. It's done. Not even,
Whoosh.
I mean, that was slow compared to what really happened. And the only thing we're seeing is the 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 flash. We're seeing that all the situations that could have come about if that could have ever happened, all just flashed out there, and we're watching each and every single one of them and deciding how we want to see it. And if we want to see it with the Holy Spirit, then we can see it in a way that there's nothing wrong happened. We can practice forgiveness easily. And that's up to us. That's it's not going to change how everything looks. It's not going to change anything. But I do believe that when we actually forgive the world, forgive all because I see it in my own life, the more I forgive the terror of the world, the more beautiful my world becomes. Uh, the happier I am, and the more peaceful things are for me. Just things that you would think would be going wrong are not going wrong. So, I think it changes your experience, but it doesn't change the dream. It just changes your experience of the dream, if that makes sense. But it's over.
Mhm, mhm.
It's over. All right, enough of this. Let's go on. Let's
It
see.
was over a long time ago.
Long time ago. And we just keep saying, no, 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 I want to watch it again. Like watching reruns of the Andy Griffith Show or Gilligan's Island. Oh my Lord, watch reruns of Gilligan's Island and worry about how they're going to get off that island.
Have you
You
have
know,
you seen the Stairway to Gilligan's Island?
no.
Oh, it's someone who combined the music of Stairway to Heaven and the Gilligan's Island theme song. That you can
Oh,
Google it, and it's pretty funny.
I love that. I like that kind of stuff. So, all right. Okay. Uh, so Bill's surprising role never materialized. I shall discuss this issue in more detail in part three. Jesus's dictation on Helen and Bill's relationship continues now. Note that you, Helen, do not need his, Bill, help as a scribe because you developed this ability by your own efforts and finally placed them at my disposal. By lending you his strength, he strengthens himself. When he gains this through his own efforts, he will he will
Need your help, right?
okay. That was my daughter calling. I just sent her a message. Okay. When he gains his strength through his own efforts, he will need your help in a very unexpected way. But this is just another example of the reciprocal nature of miracles. You and Bill do have special talents which are needed for the celestial speed up at this time. But note that the term speed up is not one which relates to the transcending of time. When time is abolished and all the sons of God have come home, no special agents will be necessary. But do not underestimate the power of special agents now, or the great need there is for them. I do not claim to be more than that myself. So Jesus was a special agent. All right, but more than that myself. No one in his right mind, a term which should be especially noted, ever wants either more or less than that. Those who are called on to witness for me now are witnessing for all men as I am. The role of the priestess was once to experience revelations and to work miracles. The purpose was to bring those not yet available for direct revelations into proper focus for them. Heightened perception was always the essential priestess attribute.
I just put
So,
in the chat the quote from the course that talks about special agents. And this is from the manual. It's special agents seem to be ministering to him, yet they but give form to his own choice. So, I mean, that I think that kind of alludes to all the magic that we do in the world. Like I'm on day 8 of antibiotics for pneumonia.
right.
That's a special agent, and it seems to be working. And as I was listening to Ken this morning out for a very short walk, because it's pretty warm, um, it's like, well, yeah, do the magic, but just don't ever think that that's going to bring you the peace of God. The course never suggests against magic. It just says that's not going to bring you home. But it would be silly to not do the things that lead us away from fear, and so much of magic is about that. So why not? But just remember that anything shifting in the dream is still just a dream, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the rest of it is abracadabra.
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 I like your cadence on that. That's fun.
Oh,
Somehow when I read Special Agents too, I always think of Agents 86 and 99 and Get Smart and
yes,
some of those
me
spy
too.
spoofs.
How funny. I love
Yeah,
that show.
yeah.
Um, no, that's from that abracadabra is how oh, and Judy has raised their hand. Let's see. Um, yeah, please go ahead.
I just I just wanted to say hello. I didn't know if I was coming through. I felt like I was eavesdropping on a private conversation here.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Well,
no, we're just reading a book.
not private.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just an ongoing about a decade plus now
Yeah.
conversation that Lynn and I have on Saturday morning. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I love the referral to magic when I think, that we all are magic and why not use magic on magic?
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah. Thank you, Jude.
Thanks.
Um, all right. So let's see. Do you want to continue reading after A Course in Miracles became public?
Sure.
Okay.
And oh, there we go. After Course in Miracles became public and Helen's identity as the scribe who had heard the voice of Jesus became known, she was frequently approached by people to ask Jesus for advice for them. With the wisdom of the priestess, Helen would tell them that she would be happy to pray with them and help to facilitate their hearing the answer for themselves. Well, that's taking this, you know, the, the knocking the wind out of the sails of any specialness right there, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
all have the same capability. Helen was just a particularly clear channel, but we all can and do tap into that whenever we truly want to. So,
Yeah. And
um,
it's interesting. I heard her say that on that one recording where they were interviewing her, and she said anybody could do it. You could do it. Anybody can hear it. And but I don't recall very many other people uh saying that they were hearing it, so they must not have believed it. I must not believe it either. So anyway, continue on.
okay, I was just going to respond to another comment that Dev made in the chat. Um, and he said, rearranging the deck chairs means nothing happens. Exactly. So I like to take that and mix metaphors. Um, and I like to think of it's I'm rearranging holodeck chairs on a Titanic dream when I'm doing the magic, But like I say, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's still a dream. It's still a horizontal change, and the only uh, suggested change that the course makes is a vertical one. Just switch teachers, and then everything is different. And we're all working up to that, I think. One little holy instant at a time, right?
Exactly, exactly. And those holodeck chairs are so much easier to move.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
All right,
So,
continue reading.
so yeah, Ken continues. Frequently, I heard Helen tell others that there was nothing special about what she did. They could hear for themselves. Bingo. Needless to say, this was the attitude Jesus fostered in the course. As he said, quote, all my brothers are special, unquote. Previously quoted, see page 239. Helen then wrote down this important note, which obviously made it possible for Jesus to make his next statement to her. Helen, this morning was the first time I ever said I would be honored if there were any notes he wanted me to take. He said he did. Jesus, I told you you were now restored to your former role in the plan of the atonement, but you must still choose freely to devote your heritage to the greater restoration. Well, isn't that all of our challenges, to go past what's in it for Bruce and Lynn and whoever else, to what really is truly of benefit for all of creation, which is really what the course calls God's will, which is simultaneously our optimal happiness, even though our egos don't want to see it that way, right? As long as a single slave remains to walk the earth, your release is not complete. Complete restoration of the sonship is the only true goal of the miracle-minded. Your earlier acute problem in writing things down came from a much earlier misuse of very great scribal abilities. They were turned to secret rather than shared advantage, depriving them of their miraculous potential and diverting it into possession. Helen then wrote down in her notebook a special revelation, which was not transcribed by Bill. It refers back to one in the series of, quote, flashbacks, unquote, with Bill, where she was once again an ancient priestess to whom Bill thought people and whom Bill brought people in need. Bill's role now, however, was taken over by Jesus, who said to Helen, quote, priestess, a brother has knelt at your shrine. Heal him through me, unquote. Helen then wrote from herself, Helen, I have an idea that the, quote, shrine, unquote, merely referred to the, quote, altar within, unquote, which the priestess served. I imagine that the communication was direct and the, quote, brother, unquote, all was nameless. I think the priestess responded automatically by praying directly to God, standing with upraised arms to draw down a blessing on her brother, who knelt outside. Her response was completely automatic and impersonal. She never even thought of checking the outcome because there was no doubt. I imagine there is still no doubt, really, except that the priestess can no longer ask alone. It was originally, quote, sister, unquote, not, quote, priestess, unquote, ostensibly referring to Jesus' salutation. What I'm picturing and visualizing as I'm reading this is some of the things some kind of etchings I think I've seen in one of Manly Hall's book of the Oracle at Delphi, the
Mhm.
priestess standing and on this triangular, sitting in this triangular chair, above this altar and bringing down the inspiration, kind of thing. But the altar, of course, in the course is always our mind. In fact, the course is always pitched to the decision maker in mind that's choosing between the two thought systems. And that's really the oracle that we all have in our mind all the time. Whether or not we use it as often as we could is the other matter. Back to the all are called but few are chosen. kind of applies on an individual level as well as a temporal level for each of us.
It does, absolutely. And just did she even, doubt it or, because he was telling her something directly back over here.
Mhm.
And she was I suppose saying like, I suppose you must mean this, the altar. Where's that? Where she says that. Oh, I have an idea that the shrine merely referred to the altar within, which the priestess served. I would have thought that would have been a lot more clear to her that was. It's almost like she's guessing that, is this what you mean, Jesus? I'm not sure, or I'm just imagining this is true, but
Or maybe that was just penned in a moment of ambivalence or resistance on her part or something. Who knows?
yeah,
Yeah.
could very well have been. So okay, all
Like Ken
right.
says, when Helen was tuned into what Jesus was sharing, it was profoundly clear. But when she was kind of doing it on her own for, kind of hearkening back to what he was talking about for personal gain, it's like, she could be way off,
Yeah. Okay.
which is true for
Yeah,
all of us, right?
that's true for all of us.
Once again, we seem to be reading a story about Helen's biography, but it's always about what's going on in my mind.
It's all about me. Funny. Okay. So let's see, where are we at?
I think it would start again with this description is remarkably similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, this description is remarkably similar to Helen's priestess experience earlier that summer with Bill, which I presented in chapter 5. Helen then asked Jesus a question regarding past memories, and he answered, "As long as you remember always that you never suffered anything because of anything anyone else did, this is not dangerous." Well, there you go. I'm going to read that again. As long as you remember always that you never suffered anything because of anything anyone else did, this is not dangerous.
That's quite a
Remember,
sentence, isn't it?
it is.
Talk about generalization. That kind of implies complete safety, but only in the mind, right? The right
Yeah,
mind. Yeah.
yeah. Nothing ever happened. Nobody did anything.
Hmm.
Nothing anybody did. It's not, oh yeah. So remember that. Remember that you who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. You never really wanted peace before, so there was no point in knowing how to get it. This is an example of the quote, need to know, unquote principle, which was established by the Plan of Atonement long before the CIA. I love it. In addition to the cute allusion to the Central Intelligence Agency and its quote need to know unquote principle, we can see here a succinct summary of the course's teaching that our one need is forgiveness or the acceptance of the atonement, which allows us to know or remember the truth that has always been within us, but which we have forgotten. The notes continued with material now found near the end of chapter 1, as well as the last two miracle principles. The dating here is imprecise, but we are somewhere in the beginning of November. So this has been like a month she's been hearing this voice.
Mhm. I put in the chat that because that sounded so familiar. Remember that you who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. Well,
There it
there it
is.
is in chapter 1, section 4, right?
Yeah,
Or sec 6, I guess it is. Yeah.
section 6, toward the end of chapter 1, as he said.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, by complete forgiveness. All right, so are we at chapter 9?
Yeah, we've made it
Okay.
to 9. Wow.
Well,
It ended on the bottom of the page. And it's like, whoop, wow, there it is, chapter 9. Okay.
yeah, like I turned the page and there was all these footnotes. I'm like, what the? Oh, I guess we're at the end of the chapter. I
Yeah.
like the way they do this in the Kindle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not consistent throughout all Kindle, but it still is nice. So,
So I have us now on the top of page 249. Shall I pick up where we
yeah,
left off? Okay.
please go ahead.
Chapter 9. The Scribing of A Course in Miracles, -B, 1965. Specific teachings. We begin the chapter with an early November 1965 reference to Helen and Bill. Jesus explains that their differing but complementary ego dynamics present an ideal classroom for both to be healed, with the unspoken proviso that they gratefully accept the learning opportunity. So, sounds like just about any two people on the planet, and probably in particular, people we live with, work with, and family members, and our our CFOs, if you will, our chief forgiveness opportunities, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In her letters to Bill, Helen also commented on their ego differences, as well as these differences serving a useful purpose in their mind's healing. We have already seen evidence of the important emphasis Jesus places on this theme, as it directly reflects the Course's principal message of forgiveness. We shall now consider it in more depth below. You want to read from there?
Sure.
Okay.
So Jesus's discussions on Helen's and Bill's ego defenses basically focus on two related points. One, Helen's use of projection and Bill's of denial. And two, Helen's very strong, though occasionally misguided will, and Bill's weaker, though more consistent will. Characteristically, as we have already observed, Helen was the much stronger personality, volatile, and easily aroused to anger. Bill, on the other hand, tended to handle his anger in more passive and subtle ways, and often was unaware of the true nature of his feelings. Thus, Helen was always much more out in the open about her emotions relating to God and Jesus, projecting her own thoughts of rejection onto them, feeling justifiably angered by their seeming lack of response. While Bill very often denied his emotions altogether and was thus not in touch with them. It was his ego's defense mechanism of denial that resulted in Bill's weak, though steady identification with his function. Thus, Bill remained faithful to this function, although his denial did not allow him to experience its relationship to Jesus. Helen's projecting, on the other hand, correlated with her strong will through her volatility, though her volatility resulted in great inconsistency. It was nonetheless always clear to Helen that her work was done in close relationship with Jesus, the quote, top sergeant, unquote, of her letters. The situation of complementary ego dynamics of projection and denial, when not accepted as a classroom for learning forgiveness, unfortunately turns into a stormy battleground in which the ego lesson of one or the other reigns supreme. And that's quote, one or the other, unquote. As the years wore on, it was the battleground that became the reality for Helen and Bill. But for now, the honeymoon was still in session. We turn now to a brief comment from Jesus. Still later in this chapter, as well as in the next one, this important theme will return. Right, this is Jesus. You, Helen, are both more miracle-minded and less able to recognize fear because of your stronger but split identification. Bill also characteristically is less miracle-minded, but better able to recognize fear because his identification is more consistently right, but weaker. Together, the conditions needed for consistent miracle-mindedness, the state in which fear has been abolished, can be particularly well worked out. In fact, it was already well worked out. So that's Jesus telling Helen, basically talking about their characteristics and how they can work together. In the midst of a discussion on the atonement, what is now in the beginning sections of chapter 2, Jesus responded to Helen's obvious discomfort. This is Jesus speaking. The reason this is upsetting you is because the atonement is total commitment. You still think this is associated with loss. And that's how we all see it. This is the same mistake all the separated ones made. That's redundant. I shouldn't have said that. In one way or another.
Minds are joined. You were tuned in.
I guess I could have just read the next line. They cannot believe that a defense which cannot attack is also the best defense. Also is the best defense. Except for this misperception, the angels could have helped them. What do you think the meek shall inherit the earth means? They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak, precisely because it has two edges. It can turn against itself very unexpectedly. And he talks about a two-edged sword in the course, and that's basically the same thing. This tendency cannot be controlled except by miracles. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to the protection of the inner self, which, as it becomes more and more secure, assumes its natural talent of protecting others. The inner self knows itself as both a brother and a son. And then Ken says the above notes were taken down with great difficulty by Helen and constituted the only series thus far that was written very slowly. When Helen asked Jesus about this, she was told, "Don't worry about the notes, they are right, but you are not sufficiently right-minded yet to write about the atonement with comfort. You will write about it yet with joy." In other words, the ego thought system, which with which Helen was so identified, found the atonement principle, the separation never truly happened, too threatening to its own existence. The quote unquote loss Jesus refers to is the loss of the ego. It is only when one's identity shifts to the Holy Spirit's thought system, right-minded thinking, that the atonement can be accepted with joy rather than terror. And Gina. All right.
Joy rather than terror. That sounds like a good swap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But a while back, on the previous page, where you read, "We turn now to a brief comment from Jesus." I thought you were going to say commercial for a second.
I thought you were going to say something completely different.
Yeah. But I think if there was a commercial that Jesus makes, it's always for um, he's not trying to sell anything. He's always um, commanding without being demanding. I always like how that's expressed in Ken's writings. That
Yeah.
that true authority in our mind basically has no need to try to compel anyone to anything. It's basically saying the only thing that can be tyrannical is the ego. That when we truly, freely choose Holy Spirit, because we realize that's the only way that we're going to be consistently peaceful, it's a joyous thing, because it's like, wow, I could have chosen this all along, and now I'm just learning to do it more consistently. Right?
Yep. I could have had a V8.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go ahead and close our book out, and since we're
Yeah.
heading to the bottom of the hour,
Yep.
and I see our other group coming in. It's always such a pleasure, Bruce. I
Likewise, Lynn.
truly,
It's
truly love it.
I look forward to this hour on Sunday mornings very much every week, and
Me
it's always
too.
so helpful to kind of read how, again, whether it's Helen's biography or Gary's fourth book or Journey Home or some of the other things we've read. It's always about undoing the insanity and like you were saying earlier, walking each other home, and we're all doing it together, huh?
Yep,
Yep.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. So thank you so much, Bruce Rawles, and I will see you next week, my friend.